Welcome to another Glinda update. Just practicing and getting into character for Glinda. Trying to figure out how I'm going to keep this crown on my head and it doesn't fly off whenever I toss my hair like she does in the movie. But as far as an update on the Glinda build, most of the gown is completed, as you can see. I have these layers of flounce here. Hi, Miss Frey. I have a longer layer, and then a shorter layer. These are just pinned on right now because I'm going to be attaching to these what I call bubble ruffles. And once I have those attached, then I will figure out how I'm going to attach them to the main dress here. But one thing at a time, I had to figure out the math that went with the bubble wrap ruffles. So basically they are circles. And I had to figure out how long the circles needed to be to go to the end of the bottom of the tier and have some at the top to fold it over and tuck it in to give us this nice kind of ruffly look and have it blend in with the rest of the dress. So I came up with these wonderful I made little paper circles to try and figure out how I was going to do this. And one side is chiffon, I decided to add chiffon and organza. And part of the reason why I did that was because I thought that I had not originally had chiffon in the build. I added it because it has this nice little, it kind of softens the organza a little bit and gives it this nice muted but shimmery look underneath, kind of like a shimmer on a bubble. And I thought, so I went and I picked some up and I tried it and I liked it. So I added that to the build. So one side of the circle is chiffon, one side was the organza. Both are kind of light materials, right? So they're really thin. And I was trying to think, well, how am I going to give them volume? How are these ruffles going to not just lay flat and look lifeless on the dress? So I added a nice these are little iridescent, it's a string of sequins. And I add this to all the way around the edge of the bubble on the chiffon side of the bubble to add to the shimmery side of that bubble. And it also gives it a little bit of structure. It covers up because whenever you turn it inside out, you can see the other side of the seam, what you've sewn and tucked in. Since it is a translucent material, you can see it. So putting this around there kind of hides that a little bit, and it gives a little bit more structure to the circle. So basically I put it together and I did a small circle or a big circle for the bottom and then a small circle for the top. And again, I folded this many times to come up with a little, hold on, let me see if I can get this one to do too. So that's how they look. So they attach like this, and then they have this flouncy, ruffly that hangs down. It's hard to get a picture of it here because this is paper. So, material obviously isn't going to be this angular. It is going to fall a little bit. So I figured out the math, what my radius had to be and how to make then big circles. This is the small one. I don't think the big one will fit in the camera. And I don't want to pull it out, but then I had to, make a big pattern of that. And once I did that, then I cut my layers. So I did make a couple layers. This was what came out for the small one, and this was the chiffon and the organza. You can see how that ruffle kind of holds there. And then the big one was here, and I messed around with, because it's going to have different, depending on how you fold it. This is the organza on the top, got folded over. And then, so I was just playing around with, what shows as you're doing it. And as you can see, Yeah, it's kind of ruffly, but it doesn't really add a lot of volume to the gown because these are very light materials. So I kind of had to go back to the drawing board and I'm like, okay, so how am I going to make these a little bit more pronounced? You know, the dress in the movie, in the Wicked movie, is just very full. And I don't want it to be quite that full because I'm going for, you know, that cross between the different Glindas. But I wanted it to have a little bit more oomph than this. So I said, okay, let's go back and see what we have to work with. So I decided to play around with adding a layer of the satin, right? Because this isn't like the normal satin that I would get at the store and make a dress out of. This has a little bit more structure to it, and I will say this is actually satin bed sheets, so it's a little sturdier, but it's also a lot cheaper too. So just to give you a count, I ordered initially 20 yards of the satin, and I had to order 5 more because I decided to use these bubbles that I hadn't accounted for. And luckily I can still get this satin bed sheet, but loads and loads cheaper than buying fashion satin by the yard. So, and it also happened to have the structure that I needed to make these bubbles look better. So I was playing around with the satin and I made a bubble of the satin. And as you can see, it has more volume to it. It doesn't quite hang like the other one. It has a little bit more to it. And whenever you stack them on top of each other, it's going to fill out a little bit better. And as you can see, I have the chiffon showing on top of that. So then you have this going on the underside and that going over the top. Makes a nice little ruffle there. Now then, and I'm still trimming it with the sequins here on the chiffon side. So it's a little bit tedious work. I think I'm going to need 7 sets of big and small bubbles to finish this out. And I think I have this set, and then I have 3.5 more. I didn't quite get a full 4th set. I had to order more satin, and I had to go and pick up more chiffon to finish that. But my thoughts then, and I'm not sure, I think I'm going to do it on the satin, is I am going to use these cool little, so I found these iridescent, they're just different iridescent circles. And they're all different sizes. I'm going to close the door. My dogs have decided to have a fit outside. They're trying to take over the show. What the hell? So I have all of these different sizes. And I think what I'm going to do is that in the satin parts here, I'm going to make a intricate bubble design. Those will all be sewn on by hand. So that will be extremely time consuming there. But I think I think it'll have a really cool effect to it. Especially if I'm doing the sequins on the chiffon side, then your satin side is a little bare. That'll help fill that out. I might even do some little kind of rhinestones because I have one of those little things where you can put little rhinestones on it. So I might do that too. Just depends. But what I'll probably do is finish these bubble ruffles and get those all attached. And then I'll probably work on the bubble wand because I need to at least know that I have enough of this costume together before next Friday the 18th. So Friday the 18th, I can register for the cosplay contest at Fan Expo in Chicago. So I have to know by then whether or not I'm going to have enough of this costume put together to feel confident that I can finish it for an event in August. So if I have the majority of the dress done, minus the little nitpicky details that are going to be hand sewing, I have the dress together, all the ruffles on, and I have the bubble wand done, I feel fairly confident that I can enter the contest at that point in time. And then I'll have a month to do the little fine tuning things that I will need to do here and there. I did order a hoop skirt and shoes and that type of thing, so that, because I'll also have to get a hem, and there's a lot of layers to hem there in a month. And you would think that, you know, that'll be really quick, but on a dress with this many layers, it'll be quite the chore to complete. So just from a time perspective, it's doable, but I do have other things on my plate. I have wizard hats that I'm trying to prepare. I have other craft items for some craft events that I have coming up. I have to make some more tabards. So, you know, just trying to juggle all of those things. I almost feel like, you know, Cinderella, if I finish all of my chores, then I can work on my Glinda dress. So, but I have to get all the other things done first. So it is a little bit of a time management crunch. And, you know, I have a household and a family and a job. So I have to kind of juggle around those things. So some days I'm able to get a lot more done than others. I got a lot done this weekend, and hopefully I can get a lot done this next weekend. And so hopefully next week I will have bubble ruffles sewed on for you, at very least pinned, so you can get the idea. But that's where we currently are.